Hey,
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to What Kind of Internet Do You Want? And our Web3 weekly wrap up.
Only 30 minutes late. Sorry for the technical issues. My goodness.
Had a little technical difficulties.
It's nice when all your sources are set up like hours before the show and then literally 5 minutes before one of them just blinks off. And you reboot everything and it won't come back.
It's been a little sweaty in here.
Yeah, that was fun.
We're excited.
Fun.
Well, adrenaline rush to start the show off.
One of my favorite, whenever this happens, one of our favorite shows was West Wing. And whenever this happens, I think of that scene when Bartlett is going out and she cuts his tie. Exactly.
Totally. I love that scene. One of the best.
Oh, goodness.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we got a lot to get into, so let's get started, yeah?
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Let's kick things off.
We've got, unfortunately...
So sad.
Some sad news about LK99. Well, most likely sad news about LK99. One of the things that we shared last week is that there was a lot of labs rushing to try to test it and try to replicate it, and a lot of them have replicated the magnetic properties, and no one has been able to replicate anything that suggests it's a superconductor. Sadly, at high temperatures at low temperatures or otherwise, and even like in all kinds of conditions, it actually turns out that it's actually a very highly resistive material. So not only is it a superconductor, it's very resistive. It looks like it literally it just kind of is a ferromagnetic. It has ferromagnetic properties. So it's just kind of like other types of metal where once you put them up against a magnet, it becomes magnetic, and then it was light enough, I guess, that it could actually make it kind of stand up on one end a little bit. So not everything is certain, obviously. There's still going to be some people experimenting with it, and there were some papers and some kind of simulations and modeling that suggested why it actually made sense that it was a real thing. Hopefully what that actually means...
so trustworthy.
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully all that really means is that while this isn't it inspired enough people to be thinking about the underlying subject that just won't let it go.
Ever the optimist. I love that about you.
Because I want my hoverboard.
I want my hoverboard.
But a funny little twist on top of it. Can you go to the close-up of me with the article? There you go. A funny little twist on top of it is that one of the materials that was important to making it was called apatite. I'm not entirely sure. One of the main constituents of it is often mistaken for other minerals. In fact, it was named for this property. In Greek, it means to deceive, and that's pretty funny, pretty ironic. Someone else actually that is clearly a little bit more Greek, because his name is literally Leonidas, corrected him. It doesn't actually mean to deceive, it means to cheat.
This is probably, I don't know. It's like the cherry on top of the story, you know, for it to have all played out on Twitter. It was like so exciting. Everybody's following it live. Hoverboards are
coming, everyone. Next week.
Hoverboards are coming. Get excited. This is going to revolutionize everything.
It's so over. We're so back. It's so over. We're so back. And now we learn. It's so over.
It's like just. Ugh.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Cheat.
Anyway, so we'll let you know if anything good comes out of, if any good news, if anyone figures out, oh my God, you were all doing it wrong. If you do it exactly this way, we got hoverboards, but it seems unlikely at this point. So let's move on.
All right. Well, in good news, Grimes. Sorry.
It's all good. Whose real name is Claire Boucher, or maybe Claire Boucher. I'm not entirely sure.
So so she did an interview with Wired, talked about a ton of stuff in the interview, but for us crypto folks and Web3 folks, the takeaway is that Grimes made more money from NFTs than from her entire music career. Woo! That is stunning,
Wowzers.
Right? It's just like...
I mean, yes and no. I mean, this definitely will age me, but I've never heard any Grimes. I've never known her as... I only knew her because she was...
You like such a very... you have such specific styles of music. Like you are like
True.
Pretty repetitive in what you
true.
like to listen to. So, I mean, all I'm saying is she really was the she was an incredible example of doing crypto well, right? Of like the best possible use of both crypto and AI.
True.
You know, longtime listeners will know that like the thing that I love most about Web3, about crypto, about what it does for content creators is how it unlocks this incredible combination of collaboration and monetization for creators. And Grimes did like some really great work in that area. I don't know that that's specifically what she made the money for here. I think she probably made the money for an NFT collection that she sold at the height of the bull. So, you know, she was just smart about it.
Right.
But nonetheless, it really shows the incredible potential here for creators, because I don't know where you would put Grimes in the list of how much money she made previously. Like, I don't know exactly what we're comparing to here. Right. But she's a well-known artist.
Yep.
I assume she was making a decent living.
Yeah.
I assume. Although I don't know that for sure, because, you know, artists aren't making any money on streaming services anymore. They're only making their money really from touring.
Well, the famous ones tend to, and she's pretty famous. So
she's pretty famous, so maybe she is.
Yeah.
Maybe she is.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
and obviously, you know, richest person in the world's baby mama that's going to help to some degree a little bit, you know.
Well, yeah, hopefully she's not hurting
but
financially,
I agree.
regardless.
The move
but
to kind
you
of
shouldn't
open
have
stuff
to,
up to
you
AI,
know.
that was a very cool move.
Right. Yes. So the way that she did that, just to refresh people's memories, is she told people that if they were able to create music that sounded like her, or use her stuff but kind of like remix it and make originals that were Grimes-esque, that I don't know the exact percentages that she offered, but it was some sort of split where they would get a portion of the money and she would get a portion of the money. And that is like, that is where it's at. That is how creativity is going to be unlocked in this way, that we are going to see so much beautiful stuff. It's going to be, there are these eras of history that are known for really prolific, beautiful works of art, and or not just works of art, but that kind of creative culture, right? And we are headed there with this.
I remember we've talked a lot in the past about iterative art, and I think we always assumed that would mean like take a sample of someone and then remix them, and if you allow the rights to do that, you could end up creating kind of the perfect version of it. This is an interesting new angle to it, the idea of allowing AI to simulate and fake you and thus iterate on top of that. So I'd love to see that really hit home. I can't wait to see her, you know, get a platinum album with an entirely AI produced set of music. That would be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
We'll read one other quote from the article that she said about NFTs. She said, "I'm sad about what happened to NFTs and crypto because it got polluted fast with people trying to make as much money as possible. But
True.
I do want to think about compensating artists, especially digital artists. And I hope when the aggro niche dies down, we can come back."
Yes.
I agree 100.
Hell yeah. More power to her. Yeah. All right. Well, what else do we got in the Web3 news space? Something major launched this week was the Coinbase's Layer 2, which they call Base, which I'm sure will not cause any confusion for anyone at all.
No, we're excellent
has
with
launched
naming
this
in
week.
crypto.
Yeah, we really
It's our
are
strong
great at
suit.
it. Yeah. So it kind of was out and kind of available for a little while, and they just had their official actual launch event earlier this week, and it's obviously been quite successful. There's already over $140 million of TVL, which is fantastic. And then one extra thing that I thought was really interesting as a departure from the way that a lot of other L2s work is that Coinbase has no intention of launching their own native token, which honestly, I would say is a good idea, because I think this was just brought up in a podcast interview you did this week. Hasn't been released yet, but someone just made the point that not everything needs a token, and certainly not every excuse to have one that doesn't need one should there be one in the first place. And Honestly, we've said that for many
years.
And now we're
honestly,
up to
it's a throwback to
thousands
what Grimes was just saying.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
when the
Don't
aggro
overplay it. Yeah.
dies down, and part of that is like, everything needs a token. You got to get into the crypto roulette at the bottom so that number go up, and it's just like, what kind of internet do you want?
Exactly. So back to base, they've actually got, it looks like, I think 23, so almost 24 L2s, Ethereum L2, or rather Ethereum assets have moved over to it. So that's signs of a lot of success there. It is funny that there's one of them called Base, and there's another one with a TBA called Base. So there's some taking it, and then Base Tools, Base Ape. There's some entities that are taking advantage of the fact that Coinbase chose not to launch their own token. In a vacuum, someone else will kind of come in. So that's great. But one little detail that I thought was especially cool was that when they held their launch event, they actually did the live streaming over LivePeer. So here's
Web3
the industry
infra.
eating its own dog food. Absolutely fantastic. Very, very cool. So this is all part of something called On-Chain Summer, that essentially is just a bunch of kind of mainstream brands getting involved in the kind of NFT space and in the kind of branded collectible NFT space and stuff like that. So this weekend, Coca-Cola is launching a project. It's bringing artworks from the Global Masterpiece campaign on-chain with works from emerging artists. A list of a handful of different emerging artists here. So that's very cool. And then there's another cool one, or another mainstream brand. Atari is going to be coming out later. Atari feels like a good fit for this. They very much defined the kind of visual aesthetic of the early 80s that feels like the synthwave, retro wave movement is definitely trying to kind of mimic. So that'll be fun. There could be some amount of success with that. And that'll just be happening throughout the month. And it's just kind of an effort to kind of get people to actually get involved using on-chain assets and stuff like that. I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I thought that it would be more of a push toward just all of the different wonderful things you can do with on-chain and on-chain data. And it really does look like it's specifically focused around NFT. And I would say the market isn't fully saturated. There's a lot of still room for more interesting experiments within it. Whether it's saturated as far as the speculative side, to be decided, we'll see, kind of thing, because we don't have a story about it, but someone actually, DeGods, announced their next season of tokens, and it seems like just out of fears that it's going to dilute the current holders, it's down dramatically today. It's down like 30% because someone just sold 100 tokens. So there's some indicators that we are past the speculative peak, and maybe that's a good thing because it'll just mean we're actually getting into real, actual utility of these things and what you can really do with them. So
we love utility.
We'll see. Yeah. That's me and my optimistic angle again. Maybe we'll see.
And of course, on-chain summer being a throwback to DeFi summer, I think that's fun. Marketing, and actually, love to see it on chain. So
agreed.
Yeah.
So just looking at kind of how the DePIN market has handled the news of the week. Most of them, a couple of percent. This is the week's averages. So just a couple of, 1% or so, kind of up and down here and there. But two of them in particular. LivePeer over here, possibly on the news that it was used in the Coinbase thing, and then a bunch of other kind of integrations that they've announced this week. They're up almost 60% on the week, which is absolutely fantastic. And then a cash on no particular breaking news, but just kind of
they're awesome.
That they're awesome. that obviously just kind of the pressure of trying to get H100s and just get access to GPUs, and the fact that mainnet goes live soon. They're up 73% on the week. So that's absolutely huge. They might have actually eaten a little bit of Render because Render had previously been kind of blowing up. So anyway, wowzers, absolutely wowzers. Anyone holding AKT and LPT is having a great week, obviously. So good news on that front. That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in other, let's say, Web 2.5 news, PayPal has announced a stablecoin. PYUSD is specifically backed by US dollar deposits, short-term treasuries, and similar cash equivalents, such as money market instruments. Users will be able to transfer PYUSD between PayPal accounts and compatible external wallets, send payments, and pay for purchases at the checkouts of e-commerce websites. Unlike existing custodial stablecoins like USDC, individuals will not be able to self-custody their PYUSD.
What a shock.
And they will not be able to send payments to wallets that have not gone through a permissioning process. They will also only allow users to transfer Ethereum to wallet addresses that accept PYUSD, of course, but it's not clear which wallets will allow this and which wallets won't at this time anyway. And, you know, /shocked, there's some terms of service that go along with PYUSD, which include, can you pull up the tweet that I sent you that has that? Yep, there it is. The PayPal stablecoin can be frozen.
No way.
What?
It's really funny. Like, PayPal has been repeatedly over years the thing that the crypto Web3 industry has like poked at to be like proof that even though web technology solved for payments and they're instant, they're fast, they're low cost, etc. It's the control that matters. And
there it is again.
They have decided that they still need to keep that control.
We see this theme again and again and again and again, and I cannot wait for when we're able to kind of shake off the chains of Web 2 business models. But really, this theme is that Web 2 companies that are successful want to adopt Web 3 technology because it's where the web is going. It's exciting, amazing technology. There's a lot of attention and energy going into it. And yet they consistently and aggressively apply Web 2 business models to Web 3 technology. And that is a big fail every time.
Yeah.
It's hard to think outside of the rails of revenue models that have worked because it's risky and it feels dangerous because you don't know. That there haven't been like clear examples in Web3 that it's just like, oh, well, if you X, Y, and Z, boom,
you'll have all this success.
Where there are those kinds of proven revenue models in Web 2, right? And so
why not mimic them, emulate them? Yeah.
Yeah, right? Don't reinvent the wheel, do what works.
Right.
Okay, except it doesn't work to try to force Web 2 onto Web 3.
Right.
There's one more thing I have to say about this, and it's one of those things where I sort of hate to give her airtime, but Maxine Waters weighed in about this because they are, looking at this stablecoins piece of legislation, and she noted, and this I think is interesting and worth giving her airtime for, that PayPal has 435 million customers around the world, which is more than the number of online accounts of all of the largest banks combined.
Wow. I did not realize that.
Right? I know. Stunning.
They banked more people than banks. Wow.
And
impressive.
What that also kind of signals is like, wow, what a big step this is into Web3 for all of us in a pseudo positive way. I guess positive that it's happening, questionable that it's like
how it's being executed.
Are people going to get burned? Like, is it going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth? Is it going to go wrong? Is it actually like 2 steps forward, 1 step back? Time will tell.
Well, and especially because I remember we were talking about this with someone else this week, and they pointed out that the real big benefit here is that you can now use PayPal's service, like their kind of off-chain instant payments, outside of the PayPal ecosystem. And that seemed to be the implication, but it's not. You can only use this wallet and this token within the PayPal ecosystem. So honestly, I almost kind of wonder what the benefit is. If it's still got the same amount of control that they always wanted to have, and you can't actually use it outside of their applications. You can't just like deposit PYUSD on a completely unbranded, unaffiliated wallet.
It has to be permissioned.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Then what is the benefit to either the community or PayPal? I don't entirely understand.
They
I'm
got
curious.
a lot of
it's
free
experimenting.
news.
They got a lot of free news about it. Yes. And it is an experiment in a company issued stablecoin. You know, like,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's big news. We had to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It definitely
high
is.
points.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Moving on to AI.
Yes. With some AI news, we've got OpenAI has launched a web crawler that they call GPTBot. The article frames it as amid plans for GPT-5. That's, that might or might not be true. This is kind of their answer to, they had web search, and the way that it worked was it used Bing, because, Microsoft is deeply invested in OpenAI, so there's a strong relationship there. And Bing is Microsoft's search engine. So they gave ChatGPT access to Bing, and it would find something, and then it would read the article, and it would keep on going. It would give you the information. And what they found out was it would get itself around paywalls very easily, and other various blocks and stuff like that. And so this is more of an indirect route, where what they're doing is they're letting their web crawlers crawl across the entire web and use links to kind of follow up where it needs to go and stuff like that, and learn up-to-date information so that it can then be used to train future models. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to like make an exerted effort to create a bunch of training data around the web and then hand it to it for the next kind of set of training data. It literally can find that information on its own. And that way it's not like responding to a user request to read a New York Times article around the paywall. It's just say, read the entire web that you can, and then respond to requests appropriately, kind of thing. Cool. And then the other side of it.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, web crawlers, to me, have this connection, this sort of controversial side of them, in that who owns the data? Who owns the content? Is it okay to scrape someone's website? Did Google just get away with it because they did it early before people started asking these questions? And the second question being, there are other scrapers that are attempting to compete with Google's index to create their own, index of the web to compete, so that there isn't just this monopoly on search that Google has, right? And yet they have been able to cover such an insignificant portion of it that it's almost useless. Their indexes are almost useless.
I don't know that I would agree. I think most of their competitors, the weakness isn't the extent to which they have scraped the web, it's how effective their algorithms are.
Oh, interesting.
At giving you the thing that is most likely to make you happy from its whole index.
So you think that their
Google's
indexes are
relatively similar.
relatively comparable?
Yeah.
So how long does it take to...
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't answer that. But there's no technical limitation to prevent someone from being able to do so, because all of them are just based on the idea of you read a page, and not only do you index all the content on it, but also you find any links that are on it, and then you follow those and you keep on going, kind of thing. And since the whole web is connected...
Okay. So will AI be better than Google at indexing the web?
It might be.
That is the question.
Well, okay. So to your first question,
and also then serving up the.
To your first question, very likely yes. Now there's something called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act that is incredibly nebulous. It has been at the heart of all of the lawsuits in the past about web scraping cases. If you got some somewhat private or proprietary information that made itself into Google's, especially in Europe where they have very specific laws, GDPR and all that, to protect against this. If a web crawler did in fact, or web scraper did in fact find that information and then revealed it to other people through a search engine, that's the basis for different lawsuits. Mainly, like the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act doesn't specifically say you're not allowed to scrape stuff. It literally says something like you're not allowed to use a computer for something other than its intended purpose, or something like it's like really generic. And so they can come up with, and it's a federal law, so they can come up with a lot of high-level federal cases that are really just based on super loose interpretation of stuff. So I don't know. Because in fact, they are being sued. In late June, a class action was filed against OpenAI by 16 plaintiffs alleging that the AI firm had accessed private information. Here's an interesting part, from ChatGPT user interactions. So the claim was, by me sitting there and talking to ChatGPT, that's supposed to be incredibly private information, there's claims that that information was leaked or was accessible to other people. That might just be bad database management on OpenAI's part because they were growing so fast.
Wow,
That's happened in the past.
interesting.
You log in and you see someone else's search history or whatever. Like that's happened in other cases.
Sure.
That isn't necessarily related to this.
That'll be interesting to learn if that is revealed through this case.
I don't think it's an ongoing problem. I think it did happen. I think, I don't think they expected to
Makes
blow up
sense.
at the speed that they did. I actually, honestly, I was using it for something earlier this week, and I started getting some really, really weird responses. Like, it felt like it was a dreaming robot. It was really, really weird. It got really repetitive, and it said really weird. It was very, very strange. I was like, is the AGI trying to emerge and talking to us right now? I don't know. I think it was just. I don't know if it was a bug. It's hard to tell whether it's my computer was going especially slow and there was some sort of problem with caching it, but it doesn't seem like that was the case. Or if their systems were just overwhelmed, or I honestly don't know. This is such an emergent phenomenon. It's hard to really know what the heart of the problem is when there's new problems and stuff like that.
Wild.
Yeah, very, very wild.
Dreaming robots.
Yeah, well, do electric sheep dream of, I don't remember what the line is. And then the last part, the headline of the article said that as we're approaching GPT-5, the only reason that anyone believes that is because they filed a trademark application for it. Sam Altman himself says that they're, quote, nowhere close to beginning training it, just because they still have to do a lot of safety audits and stuff like that. But to note, within the trademark application, they did put a couple of new functionality, things that we can get from ChatGPT, but only because of integrations with other things, including conversion of audio data files into text and voice and speech recognition. So, very much the AI that movies have always told us, where you can talk to it.
That would be awesome.
And it can talk back, and yeah, so could be very, very, very exciting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, more on the AI front. Dun, dun, dun. Gary Gensler is getting involved, saying, quote, this is the most transformative technology of this generation. There is a there. We can get to crypto later. We're talking so much of what we humans do on a daily basis. We're taking so much of what we humans do on a daily basis and automating it. Sorry, Gary, I butchered your quote there. Okay. Gensler brought up several significant risks in the ongoing AI boom to financial markets, such as mass automation, which can have cascading ramifications for trillions of dollars in assets that trade on markets monitored by the SEC.
That's a really weird thing to bring up, as if that isn't already happening. Like, what's really odd about this, I'm sorry to interrupt, and there might be more to it, but
You're
it's
fine.
Like one of the things that no coiners don't understand is that, yes, the internet is the easy, like the computers in general and the internet itself is the best copy machine to ever exist, right? You can copy anything infinitely. There's no cost of replication, right? And the big thing that crypto changes is it adds a cost of replication. To create a new account, you don't just do something automated with an API that can be scripted and repeated. You have to put up some cost. It's the anti-spam measure that means you can't replicate it in an infinite number of times. And there's no mechanism having to do with that when it comes to trading platforms and stuff like that. Like, in a lot of different ways, this stuff is easy to replicate. And in ways, if it's not, AI isn't going to change that. It's really depressing to learn that the people in charge of certain things have such a bad understanding of them, especially because you've seen him talk in his MIT talks in the past. He seemed to really get this stuff.
Exactly. That was going to be my take here. It's just really stellar comprehension of what he's actually dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Good Lord.
And really, okay, I'll stop being sarcastic now. Really freaking terrifying to think about how much this one person is slowing down the best industry that we have in America right now, right? The future of Web3 hangs in the balance over whether or not crypto and AI are able to be built here by American builders and used by Americans. And if Gensler continues to put his thumb on the scales and negatively impact the environment in which we are trying to innovate, we're going to see the industry go somewhere else or go to a lot of other places, because this industry is unique in that there isn't a lot of heavy machinery or large equipment, manufacturing equipment. Have laptop will travel, right? Anyway, we hope that AI continues to proceed. AI will most certainly save the world if we let it and use its powers for good. And we hope that Gensler does not harm it too much along the way.
No kidding. My goodness. Like, I don't know. Like, we just did another podcast interview this week with someone who built their business in France. And you asked the question of, like, how does it compare? And a lot of the things that would have gotten in the way
so jealous.
of underlying functionality that made it a really great platform, you just couldn't do here. And he was just like, you can totally do that. It's totally fine. And it makes the platform better. It enables the users more.
It helps them to have legitimate, honest revenue streams.
And yet, because there's some law that can be interpreted to cover this, the assumption is if you're trying to push up against it, you're a nefarious criminal, rather than questioning, well, does the benefit of that law actually being applied in this circumstance actually benefit anyone, the end user that it was meant to try to protect or anything else? And it turns out in most of these cases, no. They're still missing all the big scams, and they're undermining we could be so much further along if one, we had clarity, and two, that clarity included, no, these ridiculously old laws that are only going to get in the way of the effective, efficient functioning of these systems don't apply.
Right.
Because how could they?
Absolutely.
They're 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Ay.
All right, finally, in regulatory news, I think this is weirdly but good news for all of us. Sam Bankman-Fried will still face campaign finance-related charges. There was a brief moment in time, as I'm sure everyone following this case knows, that it appeared that he would not be facing those charges, even though, oh my goodness, did that seem like a miscarriage of justice.
Right.
I think, honestly, I mean, I don't have any knowledge of this for sure, but there was such an enormous public outcry that seemed wrong. That
it is overtly wrong. Like, give me a break.
That
you gave, nearly $100 million? Like,
figured out how to... So there were some technicalities about why it was going to be omitted, and essentially they've found a way to bring it back in on a different kind of, just like, rather than having it be like one of the headers of what he's charged with, it's kind of like now a sub-item.
Now a superseding indictment, yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, legalese.
My favorite take on this was from Sarah Dici, rhymes with Peachy, who quote tweeted the announcement that he wouldn't be charged and said, "Do we live in society?"
Do we even live in society? Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
It was just like, right, like, what is even going on anymore?
Right.
Where are we?
Right.
What's happening?
Right. I mean,
can this be real?
If you can spend $100 million on your, on a bunch of political donations, and then when you get busted for obvious crimes and you get off the hook,
it's like, wow.
It gets lightened. It's like, well, I mean,
the donations were useful.
Yeah, that actually worked. Obviously,
okay.
Yeah.
And then just the other regulatory news that we have been following along with, I just wanted to note really quickly, is that the SEC we expected this, the SEC has announced that they will be appealing the Ripple finding. And as we talked about in last week's live stream, Coinbase has officially now filed that motion to dismiss the SEC lawsuit. I think we have it on screen, or we have it to share with you. Yes. Okay, great. Right, and today was the deadline, as we talked about last week, for amicus briefs, and both the Blockchain Association filed one, and then two VC firms partnered to file one, A16Z Crypto and Paradigm. So really happy to see the industry coming to support this case. Really excited to see what will come of it. As always, I don't think that regulation through enforcement is the right optimal strategy for the industry to get the clarity that we need. However, Coinbase is able to defend itself well and is receiving support from some of the top organizations and investors in the space, and that's really great. We wish them all the best.
Yes. Excellent.
And that's your Web3 Weekly News.
That is your Web3 Weekly News. So this is a little bit of a shorter one. We wanted to try to keep it inside of the pre-planned hour. So that almost made it. Kind of stoked about that. Yeah. Anyway, if you did enjoy this, please go ahead and share it with your friends. Give us a like, subscribe if you're not already.
And if you have stories that you want us to cover, particularly DePIN stories, we love to share those. Give us a shout on Twitter.
Yeah, awesome.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.